Welcome in. It's the Second Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Game, and that right there is Greg Ducharme, and we got bonus golf played in the Motor City. Greg, good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too, Rick. What a week and what a finish. It was rather exciting because I had no clue who was going to win. And this thing, for the guys that were near the top, it was wide open most of the day.
72 holes were not enough. 5 playoff holes for a total of 77. It was a logjam all day long. We knew that was going to be the case. We had guys like Michael Thorbjornsen throw his hat into the ring. We had Jackson Suber and Jake Knapp all make runs at this championship. It was a 3-man playoff, but none of those names that I have just mentioned were in said playoff.
No. One thing that was really interesting was looking at the scores. There was not a lot of score variance. But you just look through this leaderboard, it's 3 under, 5 under, 5 under, 5 under, 4 under, 6 under, 4 under, 5 under, 5 under, 4 under, 3 under. Like everybody in the top 10 shot somewhere between 3 and 6 under. Not a whole lot of variance. And I think just about every single player that I named, including the winner, is ruining some shots out there. Everybody seemed to be letting opportunities slip throughout this day. And that was honestly more of the story than going out there and taking it.
Well, the playoff was between Chris Kirk, Max Grazerman, and Aldrich Potgieter. And let's just get right to the champion, Greg. He deserves it. The 20-year-old out of South Africa gets his first PGA Tour victory after a little bit of a rocky start in the final round. Made 2 bogeys in his first 5 holes before settling down into this and kind of getting the greens figured out.
Yes, very interesting day. Gets off to a great start at 1, nearly hits it out of bounds at 2. And it's not out of bounds, but he can't play it. And so he's got to take it unplayable. It makes it, I thought, actually a pretty good bogey there. And then, there were some mistakes, like 4 was pretty brutal. Right in front of the green, and 2 on the par 5. Can't get that up and down. Then 5, he's just left of the green. And it's kind of like, the weakness. Everybody knows the weakness for Potgieter is his short game. Mm-hmm. He's just left of the green on 5, hits it like 10 feet by. And it showed up again at 15. He hit just a terrible chip. But fortunately, come playoff time, he was able to hit some big ones. He was able to take care of the par 5s with the exception of number 4. So he took care of the last 3 par 5s. And I'll tell you what, Rick, I love what he does with the driver. It was impressive. He didn't miss a fairway after the 10th hole, in regulation anyway. He was striping it. And the way he rolls the rock, it's pretty impressive stuff.
I think the other thing that I really like about it, well, a lot. I like a lot of stuff. But I thought he made some pretty solid, in-game adjustments, Greg. So clearly and maybe it's nerves or maybe it's whatever, but you're struggling with kind of distance control on the putting surfaces. He was a little bit nervy on some of those shots out of the gate. And then if you look at the way he played 50, so he played 15 3 times, at the end of regulation and then twice in the playoff. The first 2 times he couldn't figure out, how to flight one back there into that pin. Figures it out in the playoff. The second time hits it to 17 feet and eventually rolls the putt in.
Yes, which was really nice. It seemed like he played it 3 different ways.
Yeah.
And that was a lot harder shot than it looked. If you just watch the way balls were coming in there, if they landed up on top, they were skipping over the back. And if you played them short, there's a slope there that was crushing it. So it was really hard to get it close. There was a really small landing area to get it on the right level on that hole, which was really cool. Grazerman got it right in regulation. Maybe that was in one of the playoff holes. I think it was in one of the playoff holes.
First time they played.
The first time, right. He landed it just on top of that ridge and it skipped up and spun. So that was really nice. But Look, those are things that Potgieter needs because he hits it so long. Right? We talk about this with Bryson and iron play. You end up with almost everything is an in-between shot.
Right.
If you have 20-yard gaps between your clubs, it's very rare that you have a perfect number. So you have to be able to play a lot of different shots, and he knows how to. I don't think it's as sharp as it can be, but the new set of irons that he put in play this week, the spinnier golf ball, seemed to really be making a difference, and they seem to really help him this week.
Puts himself on a really short list of international PGA Tour winners before they turn 21. I think it's like Seve, Rory, Tom Kim, Joaquin Neiman. I'm missing somebody big in there as well, but
No, I don't think so.
Is that the list?
Yeah, I think that's the list.
It's a who's who, right? I mean, that now do expectations change when you win this young?
I don't know for Potgieter. It's very interesting. And I know I'm not saying it the way Mark would want me to, but
that's okay. We are trying to. So the Mark situation is he was trying to fly out tonight, but the playoff he might have missed that flight, so he might be joining us. If we get him, we'll add him, but we'll see if we can get Mark tonight.
So as for his expectations, Aldrich's expectations, I think there's a way you could look at this like it's a perfect golf course for him, and he got to win. He lost in a playoff in Mexico, which was a perfect golf course for him, and he nearly got a win. He had a nice finish at Colonial as well, but he's missed like 7 cuts this year on the PGA Tour. So I think there will be an understanding from the golfing public that he's a really, really talented player, but there's still a lot of work to do in his game. And if he gets that done, it becomes very scary for everybody else. But this is still a little, it's not as sharp it's not nearly as sharp as it could be.
Yeah, it's, there's a lot to be excited about. He's 20. He's a winner now. He is probably the longest guy in professional golf, which is only going to, benefit him in the modern game. Right. So there's a lot to be excited about, but there's a lot to be, not that I should have compared him to Gordon Sargent, but things are weird. Things happen, right? Like it's so easy to just anoint the guy who wins an hour ago as the next best thing when we've seen so many times how hard this is.
Yes. A lot there's a lot that can go wrong. I mean, he has missed 9 cuts this year. 9 cuts. He's made 4. 2 of those 4, he's ended up in a playoff and he won one. So look, I think there's a lot of good in that. But I'm not ready to go say the floodgates are going to open at this point. This is not a complete player. And I'm also by no means trying to bash the guy that just won. I'm extremely impressed. I'm just trying to temper the expectations here that like this was a great week and he's a great talent, but I don't think he's the next Seve Ballesteros.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out. See, the thing with this one is you just have to circle back in 20 years to find out whether or not he's
put it on the calendar.
Yeah, I'll set a reminder for sure.
June 29th, 2045. We'll talk about it again.
We'll bring it up like 10,000 episodes from now. The man he beat, well, he beat 2 men in the playoff, but we'll get to Chris Kirk in a second. He exited a little bit earlier than the other 2, was Max Grazerman, who I'll tell you what, for how long Aldrich Potgieter is, this Max Grazerman dude can keep up with him pretty darn well.
Yeah, he kept up. There were a couple times it was like, wait, is Potgieter going first?
Yeah.
And if you look at the stats for the day, I was looking at driving distance, all drives, because it's fun just to see where everybody finished. Jake Knapp actually led. He finished 4th, 1 out of the playoff. Nikolai Højgaard was 2nd. He was 24th. Potgieter, who won, was 3rd. Cam Champ finished tied 19th. He was 4th. Goddard was tied 26th. He was 5th. Grazerman was 6th. So Grazerman on all of his tee shots for the week was 317.6. Potgieter was 321.5. So absolutely moving it. And that was great, which is what part of the reason why we were so high on him early in the week, Rick. Part of the reason was his putting, which seemed to return. He was second in the field in strokes gained putting. Yet at the same time, there were plenty of opportunities in the playoff, but more importantly, great opportunities early on in this. Like he nearly drove the green on 8 and doesn't convert the birdie. Misses a real close one at 2. Doesn't make birdie there. And then all the putts in the playoff. He had a 9-footer to win the tournament and missed.
Yeah,
a lot that will sting.
The ones in the playoff in particular, maybe the one on 18 in regulation. God, he was on the pro side of all of them. You know,
he had great putts.
They were all pretty darn good putts that could have dropped, didn't, and that's the difference out there. You know, I was holding a 40-1 Max Grayserman ticket, so obviously I had a rooting interest in this. But this is what we talked about earlier in the week. Is like he drives it so well, he putts it so well. That's a very unique combination on the PGA Tour, and this is basically the best golf course in the world for that.
Yeah, and he showed up. You know, he didn't even bring. Another reason why I liked him this week is his iron play has been pretty good last couple weeks, and it was just okay this week. You know, he gained strokes to the field, but barely, like half a shot. He hit 54 greens. Potgieter hit 62. You know, there was a little bit of a lapse in those middle 2 rounds in that category that could definitely improve. But I love the way he competes. I love the way he swings it. He's got a great intensity about him. You know, Mark interviewed him after the round. I would not want to interview Max Grayserman in a loser interview. He's a really intense guy.
I didn't hear what he said. I didn't have the sound on. I was doing HQ. I saw that Mark was interviewing him. Do you know what he said? What did he say?
Basically, it was that this one would sting for a while.
Yeah.
It really hurts. He gave it some good rolls that didn't go, and he'll get back to work in 2 weeks. But you could see it in his face. It really bothered him.
Okay, so I'm trying to remember all of this because I was at the Wyndham Championship. He was the one who coughed it up on Sunday.
Yeah, he had a 4-shot lead.
4-shot lead, like at the turn, right? It was late.
Deep. What did it all start going downhill at like 14?
And that was when Kuchar did not finish and basically said something like, I was trying to show Max it was okay to take a breath or something like that. Aaron Rye goes on to win, and Matt Kuchar comes out and taps one in the next morning in 6 minutes or whatever. Okay, so now that I'm thinking about that, this is a way different result, right? I mean, he coughed up Wyndham. This was, he had a couple of missed opportunities, but man, this was a way better Sunday for him in terms of trying to get a victory.
Well, he competed, and there were some moments when it looked like this was going to get away. Like he was going to come to 18 and be 2 back kind of thing.
Right.
It was trending that way. And then he made the long putt on 16. And it was like, okay, now we got life. Misses the fairway at 17, still makes birdie. Now he's tied for the lead and has a chance to win it in regulation. And no bogeys on the scorecard. He did not cough this up. There were like a couple of, he could have won. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say he should have won. Really, he missed a 5-footer at 2, and he missed a 4. It was like a 6-footer and a 4-footer, a 4-footer at 8.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so easy to say either one of those goes and he wins, but then maybe 16 doesn't go in.
Yeah, and you could also I'm sure you could find those for every guy in the field.
You can. Every guy on the leaderboard. Chris Kirk might be an exception. Everybody had like kind of agonizing opportunities that they missed.
Yeah. And they're even more agonizing because like a par hurts and a bogey is basically ends your tournament immediately. So it is agonizing when you're getting so many great looks and they're just not falling.
Well, especially when you look at, and this is part of the reason why they're redoing this golf course, right? I think the first time I saw a fairway bunker shot was Potgieter in the playoff.
Oh, dude, I was just clicking through ShotLink, and how many bunkers did not have a single ball in them all week long?
There is no trouble off the tee.
Yeah.
And so now there's no trouble off the tee. You look at some of these holes like 1 and 1 is a wedge in. I mean, let's just look through what Potgieter had. Potgieter had 46 yards into number 1. 46 yards. A lot of guys got it up there in that 40, 50, 60 yards. If you don't convert that, you don't get that up and down, it hurts right out of the rip. 2 is a little longer, but you can give yourself a wedge in. 3, Potgieter has 60 yards. You might have 80 yards. Chris Kirk had like 110, I think. Those bunkers are not in play. It's like, got to convert there. 4 is a par 5. 5's not that long. It's a 130 into 6. 7's a par 5. You can hit iron in there. 8, you could drive it up by the green. I mean, Potgieter, I think he hit iron off that tee, and he had 100 yards in. You could drive. Grazerman drove it up by the green. It's like all these holes you have little flip wedges in, or they're par 5s, and it's just a killer when you don't convert. And so that's why everybody leaves feeling like they could have won this tournament.
Well, we're going to try to add a third man to our playoff here. I see him backstage. Mark, give me a thumbs up if you're ready. Okay, Mark Immelman is here. Hello, Mark.
Did I tell anybody how much I hate playoffs?
5 holes, Mark. 5 of them.
Didn't feel like it was going to end either. I mean, and my guy got knocked out early, but I'm the loser interview guy, so I had to lurk around here to speak to some guy who was going to eventually bow out. I guess in the end it was an exciting day, but man, what a day. It was unreal stuff.
Yeah, how do you draw the short straw of having to do the loser interviews?
I think my boss trusts me more than Colt Knost.
Okay, fair, probably, and definitely accurate.
And I interview for a living, and I did one way back in the day with Denny McCarthy, and kind of like Ron Firestone. I made him cry, and ever since this has been my job. Got to try and get the guy to cry,
Okay, sometimes easier said than done. Well, the South African phenom, the 20-year-old, gets the job done, Mark. How about that?
So proud of him. He sort of weathered the storm a little bit. I was concerned. The first few holes, he looked sort of nervy. The club wasn't getting released. I mean, he was blocking balls out to the right-hand side because when he swings well, everyone thinks he fades the ball. But, he fades the ball if he has to. His preferred shot moves from right to left a touch. But the first few holes, you could see him just not let one go. And I had said to Dottie, I feel like the key to him playing well is just freedom, just swinging free. I heard Greg talk about, the golf course now before the changes will happen, sort of defenseless if you're hitting at a certain distance. Yet he didn't look like he was in full command. But then in the end, he sort of dug in and showed his class to finish this thing off.
Yeah, he really did. We talked a little bit about his in-game adjustments and just the ability to, kind of I'm thinking of the shots that he hit on 15, basically 3 different ways he tried to access that pin on 15 and really just figured it out as the round went on with especially his distance and his speed control on the putting surfaces. So
sorry to interrupt. You bring up a really good point that I'd love to elaborate on there with Aldrich, because if you just throw the name out here to kind of the folks in the know, and the instant answer is going to be, well, longest driver in the tour, he bombs it. But I want people to realize how many shots this guy has. Because like in the playoff there, for argument's sakes, when Chris Kirk is hitting 9-iron, now Kirk is not short. He's picked up power over recent years. And Aldrich is sort of brushing a 9-iron in there that goes a little shorter than Kirk's did. That shows you how he has the ability to change speeds and flight the ball. And he's not afraid to go low in there. I feel like that's sort of born of growing up in Perth a little bit with the windy conditions out there. So, I mean, he's got a lot of shots. He really does. And he'll get ripped for his short game because he plays with that big, strong grip. But his touch around the green is incredible as well. So the boy's got a lot of shots. And as he continues to grow and mature, golly, with that driver that he has, which he tells me is his favorite club. I mean,
yeah, it better be.
Well, think about this. I know another young man who drove the ball like a wild man, power-wise, and is a Grand Slam champion now in Rory. And Aldrich has the same sort of gears off the tee.
Yeah, that'd be my favorite club if I could hit it about 340 yards off the tee as well. Well, we're gonna get to the man that you were with in the playoff here, Mark, and right now, because it's Chris Kirk, and I'm gonna bounce this over to you first here, Greg, because Chris Kirk got in early and had to sit around and wait, sometimes figuratively, sometimes literally, crisscross applesauce on the driving range, and he bowed out of this on the 15th hole. It's the par 3, that back left pin location you think might work perfect for the draw. Kind of flares one out to the right, some 56 feet, where you start to get more likely to 3-putt than to make it. And he does 3-jack for bogey, cannot extend his playoff run.
Well,
No.
this is sort of inside golf a little bit as it pertains to Kirk. You know, when he was waiting for the playoff, we're there on what is the third tee of the tournament. And they just put you on the tee and you hit balls down 3 fairway. And he did a bit, and then he turned and hit some balls to a green that's on the other course, the south course, little wedges underneath trees. And then with a wind, the way it was blowing on the practice tee, it was sort of like into off the left a little bit. And then he turned around and hit balls down another fairway. I think it was like the second or the fourth. And I'm watching him, and he's sort of hitting balls with the wind sort of over his right shoulder now, almost like the approach shot on 18. And I'm like, well, this is pretty savvy. You know, he's preparing himself for the club he's about to have, which he hit really well on the first hole of the playoff. But then I asked Mike, his caddy, I'm like, so this is what I'm thinking. Am I right? And he goes, well, yeah, well, kind of. That makes sense. But Chris just hates a left to right wind. And as soon as they got there on 15, where it's like into him like this, and you would think as a drawer of the golf ball, you can just turn it into that thing and have the two cancel out. It just doesn't fit for him because, you know, as he hits it from the inside and the wind's out here, you get a little late with the club face. It's easy for the drawer to start to push the path way to the right-hand side, which is kind of what he did. I mean, I watched his legs fire way before they should have on that 9-iron, and it was a missed strike. But it's sort of inside knowledge here that Chris is not the happiest camper in the world when the wind's into off the left-hand side, or off the left.
Very interesting, because on 18, it was off the right, and he hit 2. I mean, in regulation, he hit a beauty in there, and he hit a beauty in there in the first playoff hole too. I mean, 2 really high quality shots. I loved what Chris Kirk did today. I felt like he was at a disadvantage. He's not short by any means, but he is compared to Grazerman and Potgieter. Sorry for the pronunciation, Mark. He's just a lot shorter than those guys. And so he didn't have quite the pitch and putt par 4s that they did. And so he had to do it with wedge play, and he didn't make very many mistakes, which was very impressive to me. So I loved the way he played this round. He had the driver on an absolute string. It's just a shame that he had to go out on a 3-putt. It felt like when he missed that putt on 18 in the playoff, he was done. There was a different look in his face. It looked like he knew that was it.
Yeah.
Which is strange. I don't normally see that from guys. And it was like, wow, that face looks very emotional, especially for Chris Kirk, who doesn't show very many emotions.
A gritty final round there. So 33, 34, 67 for Chris Kirk, just the one blemish on the card, Mark. And I will point out, he will get credit. There was a couple questions about this. He gets T2 credit. Doesn't matter where you finish in the playoff. He and Max Grazerman will split second place.
Yeah. You know, it's a guy who hasn't had his best stuff, but I remember, I don't know if it was this show or someone else, where I sort of picked him on Friday evening. just because of the player that he is and how decorated he is and just how mentally savvy he is and how he approaches the game, despite having these bombers that he's lining up against. And he said something to me when he was waiting for the potential playoff. And it was like, hey, Chris, how are you doing? Nice to watch you play. And he goes, man, it was fun. And he goes, I just hope I get some extra golf. And the way he said it was like, yikes, it's so good to be back in this position again. And I've been grinding so hard, and now I'm here. And I played so solidly there in the final round. Maybe I left one or two out there, but I just hope I get an extra go. And then it's amazing in these playoffs where at this level, if you have a shot and you don't take it, it's not often that you'll get another chance. And when he hit that 9-iron into 18 in the playoff, that shot was one of the better shots I've seen this year. The way it was struck, the way it turned, the way it was controlled distance-wise. And then to just miss that putt, I thought he'd won the thing with that shot and he was going to make the putt. And then when he missed, you almost got the sense that, hold on, this was the chance now. Because now you're going into holes where it's the par 3, but then you got 16, which is playing into a breeze a little bit, which is playing longer. And then 14 is downwind, and you got guys hitting 9-iron in there where Chris went in with a hybrid club during regulation. So he's picked up playing. I think he's obviously disappointed now. In my interview with him, he said as much. But I think when everything sort of clears out in the wash, he's going to go, all right, I'm back. Game's good. Nice way to be. I've climbed the points ranking. I've almost booked myself a place in the playoff. Now it's time to make some hay toward the end of the season.
Yeah, played well at Oakmont, and then obviously a great finish here in Detroit. All three of these guys, Greg, get some pretty significant bumps in the FedEx Cup standings, and this is the time of year where you better get it because we're running out of events here. So Chris Kirk goes from 101 to 67, Grazerman goes 64th to 48th, and Aldrich goes 73rd to 36th. Obviously, getting into the playoffs is one thing, but top 50 gets you into the signature events, and then top 30 is now anybody has a chance, because if you get yourself to East Lake, you're starting at even par.
Yeah, no more handicap for Scotty Scheffler, like you could see in those commercials.
and he needs it. That guy stinks.
Yeah, yeah, he needs all the help he can get. It's a really big deal because now 70. If you're 70th, I feel like you have a legitimate chance at winning the Tour Championship. Yeah. You know, I mean, you got to play great, but why not? You know, why can't you do that? So it's a really, really cool thing. And all you got to do is survive and advance. So these guys now have positioned themselves where they'd be in the playoffs if it ended today. But they have some summer golf coming up. And I think for Chris Kirk, that means there's a number of really good spots for him. I like his game at 3M, for instance. His game could suit Wyndham if he has to play there. I think he could play really well on golf courses like that. Grazerman can, I feel like he can play anywhere. Mm-hmm. Potgieter, we'll see. Doesn't seem like it right now, but it's obviously a developing talent, and it wouldn't surprise me if he showed the game to compete on, you know, in an Open Championship, for instance. So we'll see how that all plays out. But yeah, big moves for these guys this week.
And he certainly gets the longer leash, considering the fact that the win gets him the added benefits of exemptions and everything else that gets that comes along with winning on the PGA Tour. This was a 3-man playoff, but at one point it looked like it might be a 9-man playoff. I want to hit a couple of the guys that just missed out on this, and we're going to start with Jake Knapp here. Mark, yes?
I've just got to get someone at my hotel room door. Give me 2 ticks.
All right, no problem. We'll yeah, he's muted. I don't know. Maybe he ordered DoorDash. I don't know what's going on. But Mark is going to his hotel room door. Jake Knapp here, Greg. A easy 68 because Jake Knapp doesn't do anything difficult, man. This is smooth and cool, and he gave himself a lot of opportunities coming down the home stretch. Could not get himself into the playoff, falls just one shot short.
Well, first things first, he shot 72 in the opening round and got himself within one of a playoff. I couldn't be more impressed with that. The way he finished round 3, going birdie, birdie, birdie to close is just sensational stuff, and following up a good round with another one. It was excellent. The big difference between Sunday and Friday, when he shot 61, was with the wedge play, because just like Friday, he drove it beautifully. And a lot of those opportunities came from long, really long tee shots that found the fairway. But with his wedge play, he wasn't able to get those close today. Perhaps it had something to do with the little firmer golf course, some different hole locations. That all comes into play. But you're sitting there on a lot of these holes that you're not taking advantage of. Like number one, for instance, you're inside of 30 yards away from the flag and don't get it up and down. That's a killer. On 3, you're right up there 50 yards away. Don't get it up and down for a birdie. That's a killer. And so those kind of things really hurt. The bogeys, of course, at 9 and 11 hurt as well. But yeah, Jake Knapp fought really hard and ended up putting together, all things considered, a really great tournament.
Yeah, speaking of the Bombers, Mark, how about Jake Knapp, who was number 1 in driving distance this week? That's all drives. Not so shabby in the short game categories either. 11 out of 14 in terms of scrambling. That was 14th best. That was 14th best. And then gained 2 strokes with the putter, 31st in putting. So a complete game here from Jake Knapp.
Jake Knapp is a baller. I mean, he's just so easygoing too. I had a conversation with him on the range prior to Saturday's round. And he's just so easy, man. He's not fazed about stuff. He just plays golf. And today in warm-ups, he was hitting drives that were launching at 196 miles an hour. Okay? So the guy's got gears. He is unreal how hard he hits it with that languid pass of his. But he's strong, he's fast, he's got all these things. But those numbers sort of belie stuff a little bit here, because I want to build on Greg's point about the stuff around the greens, where he's driven the ball to a place where you could throw it on the green on a par 4. But then this beautifully languid, silky sort of long golf swing that gathers and speeds up and then slows down. When he's got shorter shots in that sort of 30, 40, 50-yard range, it's not like the length of the backswing changes very much. He sort of swings back and then almost slows down a little bit through the ball. And more often than not, you'll see him hit balls will come up 10, 15, 20 feet short. And always putting well, that's okay. But if you're not making putts in the final round, you're squandering opportunities. But all that being said, you got to hand it to, again, him, because he was sort of in the movie, then out of the movie. Then all of a sudden, he's at 8-iron to about 15 feet on the 71st hole. Make that, you're tied for the lead. So he showed some moxie to hang in there. And suffice to say that, look, I'm a fan. I am a fan of Jake Knapp, the guy and the golfer.
Yeah, he's fun to watch. He shot the course record earlier this week. He is certainly getting comfortable doing that. How about Michael Thorbjornsen? That is a name, Greg, we have not spoke a lot about this year. And he was one of the guys to come up through PGA Tour U. So he's got his exempt status through this year, through 2025, for being number 1 in last year's PGA Tour U. It has not been a great year for him. A lot of inconsistencies, but he goes out, he shoots a 67 on Sunday, finishes at 21 under par, which is a tied for 4th.
He played great, which was nice to see, because he hasn't played great very often. But again, on a golf course that's perfect for his game, he steps up and delivers. The problem is he just, like, it seems like everybody else in this tournament, maybe even Potgieter who wins, there's just these mistakes that have got to eat at you. Like he 3-putts 9 and he 3-putts 12, and 8 he had I would say a doable up and down from the back edge of the green. So those are the kind of disappointing mistakes you just can't afford to make. But there weren't very many guys that made as many birdies as him today. He made eight birdies? He made 8 birdies today.
Yeah,
those
four
were
on the front, 4 on the back.
It's a lot. So point is, a lot of really good golf in a really consistent, roundabout way. Every area of his game this week was very good. And I think he should be really proud. Hopefully he could take this, build a little momentum into the remaining summer events as well.
Yeah, it's not his best finish of the year, Mark. He had a T2 in Punta Cana, but it is only, I'm going to throw out the Zurich Classic. It's only his second top 30 of the year.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to bet this guy at the John Deere. Just so you're ready for this.
Okay.
First off, I think I've mentioned to you guys, I caught up with his new caddy, JJ, and JJ worked for Morikawa.
Right.
And JJ was like, very happy I've made the move. Nothing against Colin. Very happy I've made the move. And so I was scheduled to call Kirk, and 6 runs in one direction and 7 the par 5s running like this. And there's probably about 30 feet of rough between the 2 and trees, 40 feet maybe. And I'm looking at Thorbjornsen here and Kirk over here. And Thorbjornsen hits the 6-iron from 200, whatever it is, over that tree short of the par 5 to about 15 feet. And I looked at my guy on the course. I'm like, Craig, we got to move to this guy. And Craig's like, I'm cool. You know, he loves Thor. So we go over there and he makes the 2-putt birdie. Then, you know, sort of pulls a wedge a little bit and makes that soft bogey on 8. And we're hanging around. Now, all of a sudden, first assignment's making birdie. So I'm waiting to get moved back. And my producer says to me, he goes, just hang with Thor for a little bit. So Thorbjornsen, birdie's 10. We show that it's a good 6-iron to 11. He makes par 12. He blows one way right, like way right. And he's got this lie in the rough, kind of matted down. And in front of him, there's a hardwood tree that's, it looked 60 feet high when I stood 40 yards from him. And Thorbjornsen's got like about 180 yards to the pin and about 165 or so to the front of the green. And this cat winds up there with 9-iron. And it's this ball that takes off like a homesick angel, straight over the top of this tree, onto the middle of the green. And I sort of shook my head. And I was like, holy cow. And JJ walks past me. And I'm like, your previous guy couldn't do that. and he goes, no, we would have sliced around the tree there. So what I'm trying to say there from this brush I had with Michael on the golf course, he has got tools. He really does. But he's got to figure out what's happening on the greens. I don't care how well you hit it. You cannot out-hit a bad putter. And I've said that countless times. Now, he is a guy who's going to win. Now, if he just wants to finish 25th, 30th, 15th on the odd occasion, hit a great putt average, by all means. But that's not who he is. He's a winner. So he's going to have to iron that stuff out. He's hired JJ for better green reading, but he's got to iron that stuff out because what I saw was he squandered strokes on the greens when I was with him.
You know, one other thing, Rick, I know last year he struggled with some injury towards the end of the year. Like at the RSM, he was just coming back from a knee surgery.
Well, Greg, he just withdrew before the tournament started last week, didn't he? Was that last week?
Recently, you're right.
Yeah.
I don't know if it.
I mean, I don't know what it was, but
yeah.
It's because you brought that up. It triggered that memory.
So, I wonder with him if there's been some health issues. I don't know that for sure. I know there was early in the year. I don't know if they've lingered or if they stunted his performance with his ball striking because, I don't think it's been as good as it could be, to Mark's point. And of course, the putting's got to get cleaned up too.
Greg, he also does not. Everything gets hit full speed because he's got a bit of a shot club face at the top. He's the prototypical modern player. 6'2", lean, strong, fast, face closed. Then from there, you're rotating like a banshee to make sure you don't hit a left. When he slows down to hit the sort of soft, that ease one under the wind kind of shot, he doesn't have that just yet either. He's got to learn that sort of stuff. Almost like a young JT. When Jimmy Johnson took Justin Thomas aside and said, you got to learn how to wedge properly and stop going full bore with short clubs. JT turned into a major champion. I forecast the same thing for Thorbjornsen.
Wow.
You said it. Mark the time.
Yeah, we're going to
well, and he's got to be able to hit those Justin Thomas-esque wedges after you've whipped the thing down there 330 off the tee.
I like that. Also, Mark, I mean, I'll tell you what. There's something happening here, and it backs up what you're saying, because the odds are out for the John Deere Classic. Michael Thorbjornsen, who has literally shown little signs of life on the PGA Tour, has the third shortest odds to win this golf tournament.
Well, you guys didn't know I moonlighted as an odds maker for Vegas.
Yeah, apparently you do. You're setting the lines. He is shorter than Jake Knapp. He's shorter than Ryan Gerard, Michael Kim, Aldrich. He's shorter than Mark Hubbard and Alex. I mean, everybody. He's shorter than everybody but Ben Griffin and Jason Day. So there is clearly some momentum here.
Well, I've had the luxury of having a group of him and oh gosh, who was the other one? Luke Clanton. A couple of years ago, maybe, final round, where they both made a run at the title. And I remember watching Thorbjornsen, and I was like, the guy just looks so regal. You know, he's tall in the way he swings it and the way he hits it, where Clanton was kind of gritty and blue collar and stuff. And I think Clanton finished runner-up, and Thor was about third. So he's got good course history there. So maybe that's part of it.
Okay. It has my full attention. We've got the three-way playoff, Thorbjornsen and Jake Knapp, T4. Just a couple of notables, and I'll throw them out there. If you guys want to take the bait, feel free. But Colin Morikawa shot a 68. He finished T8. Hideki Matsuyama had himself a nice week. He finished T13. Patrick Cantlay, T32. Those were kind of the bigger names leading into the week. I can move us on, or we can talk about anything else from this week's Rocket Classic if you'd like.
One thing on Morikawa.
Sure.
Yes. Go ahead.
New putter after round one.
Yes.
He lost 4.6 strokes putting in round one. Good reason to put a new one in play.
Yes.
Mid-tournament, because it's not going to get much worse than that. Gain strokes the next 3 days.
Yep.
So that could be a sign of life. Maybe we see Morikawa with the mallet for the rest of the year.
You know what I hate? These guys get it all, man. He is playing a one-of-one prototype that is basically a spider face and like shape, but the back of it is like the Odyssey 7S, which is like my favorite putter of like, I would pay any amount of money for this putter if it was made available. And of course, Colin Morikawa is the only one that exists.
Well, maybe he puts it up for sale in a couple weeks. There's no guarantee.
Well, you know the story, right? He actually admitted to our Amanda after Saturday's round, he travels with like a few, like 4 or 5.
He's done that for a while, I think.
Yeah, like if one misbehaves, he kicks the thing out. So it might be on the market here pretty soon.
I just have to wait.
I do want to say this about Colin, because I was concerned that I was starting to see things and I was losing my mind a little bit, because I remember taking odds with you guys a bunch of times where everyone looks, well, Kyle Porter especially, where he'd be like, Colin's striking it great. You know, he's third in strokes gain approach. And I'm like, Kyle, he's not hitting it with flip, you know, as far as he's concerned. And I heard him talking to Amanda going, you know, the numbers are belying the way I'm hitting it. He goes, I love to see the ball fading. And right now it's not fading, but I'm just kind of riding the wave a little bit. So I guess statistically he's good, but the real news is he doesn't think he's completely there with his golf swing just yet. He's working really hard. It's not doing what he wants it to do, yet still, which is I guess, emblematic of what a great striker he is, he's still able to put up some good statistical numbers with the iron game.
I think he's dangerously close to going down the Victor Hovland rabbit hole. And he's not built like Victor to be able to handle that.
No, I would disagree there, because Victor, as a golf coach, you basically know you got about 48 hours to make a difference, else you're out there. It's like a carousel. Where Colin was assessing us, then he tried Blackburn, which didn't last very long, and then he went back to Rick. So he's almost more like Jordan Spieth, where he's sticking his course a little bit.
He's been with Sessinhouse since he was 7.
Yeah, but
like
if I'm reading
Rick Smith,
if I'm reading the tea leaves a little bit, I wouldn't want to be Rick right now. I think he's on the hot seat. But I still don't see, like, Vic is bouncing around between golf teachers like it's like he's changing clothes.
Yeah, I just think that I don't think Colin's view of his own game is reality. Like I don't think what he necessarily like, he's not a great narrator. He did this at Brookline too, where it's like, oh yeah, I can't swing. It's drawing and it's trying to fade, and I'm leading the US Open after 54 holes or whatever it is. He gets into these weird, like, I don't think he's a very reliable narrator of his own game.
He's a victim of his own success. I mean, how old was he when he won his first major championship?
Oh God. I mean, he won 2 of his first 8, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, he won basically everything he played in, and he was unbeatable. And he was a top, at that stage, 4 or 5 player in the world.
Yeah.
Now, once you've been there, think of Jordan Spieth. Colin's not the first one. When you've been up there on the top of Mount Everest to golf, now you're down the other side and you're trying to find your way back up there because you're like, I've played well. I've done this before.
He's the 5th ranked player in the world, Mark. He's not on the side. He just hasn't won, and he's going crazy. It's driving him insane.
But you see, the thing is, his calling card is the ball striking.
Yeah.
It's the ability to play the game ugly. And if you have to, we'll get to Scotty Scheffler. He can play ugly golf and win. You know, he can make it look kind of, but then there are times when he strikes it great. Where Collins, it's pretty, man, and the ball struck right all the time, and it's through the window he wants, and all these sort of pro terms. He's playing a bit of ugly golf right now because the ball's drawing and he doesn't like it. But you know, he's turning it into scores, which is the most important statistic there is.
He did hit 62 of 72 greens in regulation this week. He was 3rd in proximity to the hole.
I just want to shake him, Greg, and I just want to say, you are like one of the greatest golfers in the world. Knock it off. Knock it off.
Yeah. You, like Mark talks about the importance of the putting all the time. And I think what you say about winning ugly is critical, because you may not like it, but the truth is you're beating the field with your ball striking. But you can't just beat the field with your ball striking. You know, like you always say, you need to putt. At the US Open, he teed a green. He gained basically the same amount of strokes as JJ Spawn, who won. It was 16.15 for Colin teed a green and 16.30 for JJ Spawn total.
Yeah. But
Colin lost 8 strokes putted. It's like, from my vantage point, we need to prioritize. We're doing all right, even though you don't like it. We just gotta the key to, you can win the way you're hitting it, even if it's not exactly what you like. I also still see a lot of fades, unless shot tracker's wrong. I can't think of a single draw I've seen him hit. So there's just, I mean, I get that you're picky and you want to be the best you can be, and I totally appreciate that. But I just think what he's doing now, tee to green, is good enough to win. It's just time to go do it. So driving himself crazy.
Indeed. He's got a couple of big ones coming up, though. We'll see how it goes. Here are our picks from this past week. We had some good ones here, but nothing that really did the trick. Ben Griffin wins for Greg over Keegan Bradley. Ben Griffin continues his great run of golf. It was just another top 15 for Ben. T13 to be exact, Greg. This dude is a machine. He never gets tired. He just does it all.
Yeah, not surprised to hear he's playing the John Deere.
He's going to play them all. He's going to play them all the rest of the way.
Yeah, you can lock him in for a T15 or better next week too. It's really incredible.
I asked him about it. He goes, "I'm not playing Scotland," but then he quickly follows. He goes, "But I'm going over there early to play a little links golf before."
Yeah, so you might as well just play it.
Yeah, he's got a member guest at a different place in Ireland. He's incredible. I figured it would be a lot for Keegan. It was really the reliability of Ben Griffin and the win the week before for Keegan that sent me down that path. I'm just really frustrated that I don't have Grazerman anywhere on this card.
Yeah,
You know, he was in my fantasy plays. I loved him. I looked and I'm like, I didn't work him in here. What am I doing?
Yeah.
He should have been in one of my outrights, even though he lost. I would have felt better about that Red X.
Yeah. Well, Mark had him, but it was in the matchup, which still pays just as well because it was an easy one over Davis Thompson, who finished T34. So no sweat there, Mark.
Wasn't an indictment of Davis, who played well. It was just Max, and something about Max at this time of the year plays well. I think he's watch for him at 3M. I don't know if he's playing John Deere, but he's the kind of guy that in these sorts of golf courses, our late summer swing on the PGA Tour, that he has a whole lot of fun. The rest of my card was abhorrent, but anyway.
Well, that's okay. I had a perfect grid if perfect is 4 red X's. So it's all good there. At least you guys got the matchups in there. Any final 3M Open or oh gosh, I'm not ready to do 3M Open.
We're not there yet, Rick.
Any final Rocket Classic thoughts? Next week's the John Deere, but we'll get to that next week. Anything for this week?
I'll say this. If you ever wanted proof that firm and windy is the only way you defend golf courses against PGA Tour pros, you got it today. You got it this afternoon. And it was amazing to me how, because the golf course is getting chopped up and rebuilt from tomorrow morning, it's like the rules staff just went, okay, there's your golf course. We're just going to let this thing go. And there were some spots today on some of those greens where it was firm, and it was Mac Dresman said to me, he goes, in the interview, he goes, at the end of the day, 70-something holes, the greens were really crispy, sort of difficult and stuff. So it was challenging out there. And in the end, I feel like it was actually pretty entertaining. I'm looking forward to seeing what the rating is tomorrow morning.
What else did I see? I saw Aaron Wise made the cut, which is very cool.
Yes.
Nice to see Aaron Wise back playing some golf tournaments, playing well. He finished at 10 under par. I saw that. That was pretty cool. What else? Anything?
One other thing. I checked out the double digits after 2 days. Everybody inside the top 12 was at double digits after 2 days. These log jams, you could shoot low numbers, but everybody does. You can't get behind in these kind of things.
So did I lose more wine to you?
No, we never had a wine bet on it. But I looked at it because I know we had that discussion, and I was, quite frankly, a little nervous that somebody was going to go crazy. But I think that those firm and fast conditions you talked about, Mark, really played in my favor on that one.
Yeah, they did. If it was going to be soft and there were going to be guys, because what was low today, I don't think it was that low. It wasn't
seven under early.
Very early, yeah.
Yeah, there were 2 7-unders.
Higgs and Akshay.
Yeah.
But they were done. They were at home by the time Mark got on air.
Yeah.
Tell you that. All right, gents. Well, listen, we'll be back next week. It's John Deere Classic, and we've got the Tuesday show, the Friday show, Sunday show to get you all up to date on everything that you need. For now, big thanks, producer Mina. She does all the hard work behind the scenes. That's Greg Ducharme. It's Mark Immelman. I'm Rick Gaiman. This is The Second Cut. We'll catch you next time.